Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. You know that feeling, right? You've got this huge, super important deadline, and all of a sudden, cleaning the grout in your bathroom with a toothbrush seems like the most urgent task in the world. If that sounds even a little bit familiar, don't worry, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to get into the real science of why our brains are just wired to put things off. And more importantly, we'll talk about some powerful, really practical tools you can use to start outsmarting that impulse.
Okay, let's just be real for a second. There is a pretty good chance you clicked on this explainer instead of doing that other thing you know you're supposed to be doing. But hey, no judgment here. By the end of this, you won't just get why you do it, you'll actually have a game plan to deal with it. So, you know what? This time, it actually counts as being productive.
All right, so before we dive in, we've got to clear up a huge misconception. Procrastination is not, I repeat, not the same thing as laziness. From the outside, yeah, they can look pretty similar, but what's going on inside your head is totally different. And understanding that difference, well, that's the first key to actually solving the problem.
In this slide right here, this nails it. Laziness is basically an unwillingness to act. You just don't want to do the thing, period. But procrastination, that's an active process. You actually want to get it done. You have every intention of doing it. You just can't make yourself start. And that inner conflict, that's where all the guilt and stress comes from.
So if it's not about a lack of wanting to do it, what's the deal? Well, to really get procrastination, you have to understand that there's this constant tug-of-war happening inside your skull. We've got two main players in this fight, and let's just say one of them has a massive home field advantage.
So in one corner, you've got the prefrontal cortex. This is the sophisticated, rational part of your brain. It's the planner, the long-term thinker, the part that understands, hey, we really need to study for that exam next week. But in the grand scheme of evolution, it's kind of the new kid on the block, and it's going up against a much, much older heavyweight.
And in the other corner, we have the limbic system. This is the ancient, emotional, instinctual part of your brain that's been running the show for millions of years. It handles our most basic survival stuff, like fight or flight. And when it looks at a task that's boring or difficult, its only reaction is to basically sound the alarm and scream, "This feels bad. Let's go do something fun right now." And yeah, this quote right here pretty much sums up the limbic system's entire worldview. While your rational brain is trying to focus on some long-term benefit, your limbic system is just scanning the room for a quick and easy dopamine hit. It's the part that sees that little notification pop up and goes, "Ooh, shiny," without a second thought.
So why does this ancient part of your brain see your to-do list as a genuine threat? Because it's not built for spreadsheets and term papers. It's built to keep you safe from, tigers. So when it runs into a task that brings up negative feelings, like anxiety or boredom or fear of failure, it treats those feelings like an immediate danger and just floods your system with signals to avoid, avoid, avoid.
This whole internal battle leads our brains to fall for this really common but deeply flawed piece of logic. It's a lie, really. It's a simple little phrase that we've all told ourselves a million times, and it's the thing that fuels the entire procrastination cycle.
Ah, there it is, the great lie of procrastination. The thing is, our brains are just terrible at predicting how we're going to feel in the future. Psychologists actually have a name for this: affective forecasting. When we're staring down a task that makes us anxious, the promise that future me will somehow be more motivated or more capable is, well, it's a really tempting escape hatch. And here's the trap. The second you decide to put something off, you get this wave of relief. And your brain mistakes that feeling, which is coming from avoiding the discomfort, for a real sign that you'll be excited to do the task later. But of course, when later actually shows up, the task is still there, it's still unpleasant, and the whole cycle just starts all over again. So if our ancient brain is this powerful, how do we ever get anything done? Well, the secret is you don't win by trying to fight it head-on. This isn't about having more willpower. It's about having the right tools. It's time to stop trying to wrestle your brain into submission and start outsmarting it instead. Seriously, trying to just power through with sheer willpower is a recipe for disaster. Study after study has shown that willpower is a finite resource. It's like a muscle that gets tired the more you use it. Sure, a burst of it might help you finally send that one scary email, but it's not a sustainable strategy. Since we can't rely on something that runs out, we need a better system. So what's the most powerful tool in our anti-procrastination kit? It's something called an implementation intention. I know, it sounds super academic, but the idea is brilliantly simple. You're basically pre-programming your brain's response to the urge to procrastinate. You take the difficult decision-making out of the moment when you're most likely to give in.
The best way to create one is with a simple if-then plan. It's just 2 steps. First, you have to identify your specific personal trigger. What's the thought or the feeling or the time of day that usually sends you down a YouTube rabbit hole? Then, you decide on a very specific, very small action that you will do automatically as soon as that trigger pops up.
So, for example, if I feel overwhelmed by this essay, then I will just open the document and write 1 sentence. Or for work, if I catch myself opening Twitter to avoid that report, then I will close the tab and set a timer to work on the report for just 5 minutes. The key here is to make the then part so small, so ridiculously easy that your brain can't argue with it.
Okay, tool number 2 is super simple, but it's incredibly effective. Elimination. Your limbic system is basically a toddler that's easily tempted, so don't give it anything shiny to play with. You can use blocker apps, sure, but the simplest stuff is often the best. Physically put your phone in another room. Close all the browser tabs that aren't related to your task. The goal is to make doing your work the absolute path of least resistance.
All right, our final strategy might just be the most surprising one, and honestly, maybe the most powerful. When you inevitably slip up and procrastinate, and you will because you're human, the single most productive thing you can do is just forgive yourself for it.
I know it sounds totally backwards, right? But the research on this is crystal clear. When you beat yourself up, you're just piling more negative emotions like guilt and shame onto that task. That makes you even more likely to avoid it next time. But forgiving yourself, that breaks the negative feedback loop. It lets you reset and get back to the task without all that extra emotional baggage.
So when you boil it all down, here's the takeaway. Procrastination isn't some kind of moral failure. It's a biological tug-of-war that's hardwired into our brains. And the way you win isn't by gritting your teeth and fighting harder, it's by understanding the game and using the right tools to gently guide your brain where you actually want it to go.
So that brings us to the end. You now know why you procrastinate, and you have a solid toolkit to start dealing with it. This question on the screen, this isn't just a review, it's your first step. So really think about it. What's the very first, very specific if-then plan you're going to create for yourself? Let us know down in the comments. Seriously, just writing it down is the first step to making it real. If you found this explainer helpful, do us a favor and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.